Hey, we're here at Homestead Farms and we're picking blackberries. It can't get any better. Summertime and the picking is easy. Picking about blackberries is great. Get out and do it now. We're going to go back to the kitchen and we're going to make some great recipes from blackberries. Do it! You know, there's something very zen about picking. I could do it for hours. It's just a quiet thing to do, to search and pick and search and pick. And Matt and I just really love coming out and picking anything, really. But blackberries are particularly fun. These are thornless, which is great. When I was a kid, I used to have to come out and pick berries in the thorn bushes. And we would have to wear long sleeves in weather like this. And as you can see, I'm pretty sweaty right now. Anyway, I really encourage you to go out and pick some berries. Do it. Yum. All right, we're back from the farm and we've got our luscious, luscious berries. How are we going to eat them? Well, you've heard of the paleo diet, right? I like to eat berries as part of the URSA diet. You know how bears eat berries? Like this. It was a great year for blackberries. They're gigantic. And sometimes I like to get a bowl of berries just like this and be a bear. And eat them one at a time and savor them. But I can't eat them all because I picked gallons. So we got to do something with them. So what we're going to do is make blackberry cobbler. And here's what we're going to do. I have about 4 cups of the berries in this bowl. And what we're going to do is mix them with half a cup of sugar, a tablespoon of cornstarch, and a little bit of lemon juice. About a tablespoon. Now what we're going to do is we're going to mix this up and then we're going to heat these berries before we put the cobbler part on. And the reason we're going to do that is by heating the berries first and bringing them to the oven temperature, when you put the biscuit mix on top, it sets quickly rather than being all gooey and gummy. So you want to get your berries good and hot and bubbly before you put your cobbler biscuits on. Now we can have an argument from now until next Sunday about whether cobbler is supposed to be biscuits or a pie-like crust. Believe it or not, lots of people on the internet have this discussion. And essentially, which is quite odd, is the North, the Yankees, like their cobbler with biscuits, whereas the South tends to make cobbler with a flat pie-like crust. I'm a biscuit girl, so we're going to have biscuits. So I got my berries into the pan here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in the oven, and it's going to cook for about 10 minutes. Then I'm going to go back in, I'm going to stir it up again, let it cook 10 more minutes. So it's going to cook for 20 minutes to get it all nice and hot and juicy. So let's put it in the oven. And while we're working on that, let's mix up our biscuit mix. I am lazy. And you know, if I can find a shortcut, I go for it. And one thing I do is I use biscuit mix. Don't tell anybody, but I'm very lazy about biscuits. And the other thing is that biscuits are so full of fat. I go into a major guilt complex when I try to make them. So I will buy a low-fat biscuit mix so I feel like an angel, and it's quick. So I have here a low-fat biscuit mix. The other thing I like about this is biscuit mix tends to create a very sturdy biscuit. And you're going to want a sturdy biscuit on top of all those juicy berries. So I have here 2 cups of low-fat biscuit mix. If you are offended by that, then you can certainly take yourself out and find yourself a biscuit recipe that you're happy with. The only caution I would have is that the biscuits need to be a little stiff. So you would put in probably half the liquid you would normally put into a biscuit. So I have 2 cups of biscuit mix here. And I'm going to mix in about a 1/4 cup milk and 2 tablespoons of butter that's kind of soft. We're going to mix that in here. Now this is going to come out really stiff. That's good. We want it that way. And there's also, what I put in here? About 4 tablespoons, about a 1/4 cup of sugar. Make them sweet biscuits. So we're just going to mix this up. And once this is mixed, and you're going to see how stiff this is going to be, but that's okay because like I said, we're going to put it on top of very juicy berries. And we don't want the we don't want the under part of the biscuit to be yucky. You know, we want it to be good and solid. So it's going to suck up the juice from the berries, but we don't want it to be gooey. So these are my biscuits. And now we're going to let this sit, and we're going to wait for our berries to cook, and then we'll be back. Okay. All right. Let's check our berries and see how they're cooking. Now, you know, I put cornstarch in there, and the reason I did that is when the berries let off their juice, the cornstarch will help to sort of solidify it and make it more like a gravy. So all I'm doing is mixing this up a little bit to make sure that they are uniformly warm. Just getting them from the bottom to the top and that sort of thing. And then we're going to put it back in for another 10 minutes. Here we go, berries. Okay. All right, let's see what we got in the oven. Oh, that is bubbling. Okay, this is what we want. These berries are bubbling. Now, we've got to be very careful. I just took this out of an 400 degree oven. And so I have to remember not to touch this. So now we're going to put some biscuits on top. Like so. I like to put about 6 if I can fit them. They'll grow together. They'll when you bake it, they'll move together. You know, my husband and I are mad for blackberry cobbler. I've always believed we should have a bumper sticker that says, "I stop for blackberry cobbler." We were in Northern California one year, and we saw a sign in front of a restaurant that said "Fresh Blackberry Cobbler," and we did a U-turn across a 6-lane highway to get to the restaurant. The best we've ever had, by far, was in Arkansas, at the Folk Center in the Ozarks. Pardon me while I wash my hands. So, this is now going back into the oven for about 20 minutes to cook these biscuits up, and we'll be back. That doesn't look like enough biscuits to me. All right, let's see what's in the oven. my husband likes it. A little bit of biscuit and a lot of berry. I like it with a lot of biscuit and a little berry. If it was up to me, I probably would have put another layer of biscuits right in there. But it is what it is. It looks good. We're going to have it for dessert later. I hope you try it. Go pick blackberries. If you can't pick blackberries, you can always buy them frozen. And do it. Make blackberry cobbler. See you later. Okay, so I've picked a gallon of blackberries. Can't eat them all. Well, I could if I tried, but I want to save some for later. What should I do? Well, here's what you would do. We're going to freeze them. But when you freeze berries, don't freeze them, don't throw them in a bag and freeze them. What you're going to do is set them out on a cookie tray like this. I hope you have a freezer that can handle this. But what you will do is put them out on this cookie tray. And then once you've filled the tray, put them in the freezer and they'll freeze individually. Then you can put them in your freezer bag and they could stay about 6 months in the freezer. I do it all the time. It's a great way to preserve your berries. You can do it with blueberries, last pretty well, peaches, but whatever you do, don't throw all your berries in a bag and put them in the freezer and hope that you're going to have individually frozen berries, because you won't. You're going to have a mass. So that's my little tip. Carry on.